Fear comes. When? There were thick, dark clouds in the sky, and only wisps of the moon's luster shone over the university. Although the weather seemed not to be good, many college students were sitting in the school C field in twos and threes, waiting for the arrival of the new year. No pop-up novel website. See on the sidelines of the court, the New Year's bell rang in the small auditorium. Wu Lai and a group of college classmates stood together, breathing heavily and stamping their feet, preparing to welcome the arrival of the new year. 5, 4, 3. Wu Lai suddenly turned around and glanced at Chili standing behind him, thinking that when the new year came, he would confess to Chili. 2. Thinking of this, he poked a few close friends around him, and everyone smiled tacitly. 1. Is the candlelight confession that college singles always use about to begin. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. At this moment, everyone stood up and cheered for the arrival of the new year. The college students cheered regardless of the biting cold wind, waving their scarves in the cold wind, and many idiots even took off their down jackets, coats, gloves, earmuffs, etc., and threw them into the air. Wu Lai and the others also walked out of the auditorium and came to the C field. There was a whoosh sound, and a firework appeared in the sky, exploding with a bang, colorful, and then the fireworks also flew into the sky together, and the sky seemed to be rendered with colorful and strange colors, which was really beautiful. Oh. Happy New Year. Come on, Wu Lai. A group of people booed, and several people suddenly ran back. Wu Lai knew that those guys were going to light candles, so he quickly followed the plan. Beautiful. Wu Lai suddenly started chattering. Chili, who was standing behind him, was startled by the sudden loud voice. Several girls standing next to the little beauty were not happy. Wu Lai, are you crazy? You scoundrel. What are you doing? Look, it scared our little Chili. Scoundrel. You want to treat us to a meal. Compensate for our mental losses. At this time, Wu Lai could no longer hear what others were saying, and the only person in his eyes was Chili. Although it is very cold in winter, Chili also wraps herself up tightly, but it still does not hinder the fact that she is a little beauty. What's more, her little face turned red from the cold, making her look even more attractive. Chili. As a result, Wu Lai stuttered at the critical moment. The guys next to him hated iron and steel, and they were all trying to get on the shelves. They couldn't let go of the chain at the critical moment. Even if you don't get it, you have to get it. Thinking of this, several people quickly shouted, Hey, Chili, our old scoundrel, has something to say. After saying that, he quickly poked Wu Lai a few times, and then he reacted, Yes, Chili, I love you. Suddenly, a shrill scream rang out, completely covering up the last 3 words in Wu Lai's words. Everyone looked towards a place where the shouting came from not far away, and many people turned on the lights on their mobile phones to shine forward. This photo captured several people lying on the ground, their bodies still shaking, looking like they were licking something on the ground. Wu Lai and others took a look and said, Who? Aren't these the ones lighting candles? I haven't even lit the candles since I've been there for a long time. Why are ghosts screaming now? A few buddies went up and grabbed their clothes. Unexpectedly, when they grabbed their clothes, a weird sound of ho-ho suddenly came out of those people's throats. Under the illumination of the mobile phone light, several crazy-looking faces were revealed. Their faces were ferocious, like crazed hyenas. Low growls came from their throats, and several people were thrown to the ground in an instant. You dare to bite me? Several people fell to the ground and began to fight, but Wu Lai, who was standing behind him, realized something was wrong. These guys were all helping him carry out his candlelight confession tonight. They were usually very good friends, so why did they start fighting after a disagreement? Thinking of this, he quickly stepped forward to separate the fighting people. Unexpectedly, as soon as he walked over, someone sniffed at him. He acted like an animal. After twitching his nose a few times, he roared and rushed towards him. Ah, excusez-moi. 3 question marks appeared on Wu Lai's forehead. What the hell are these? But he didn't let him think much. The man threw him to the ground in an instant. Oh. The man held Wu Lai's shoulders and tilted his head toward his neck. His body language was perfect, just like a fat pig holding cabbage. Ugh. Xiaobeikai, Wu Lai felt the huge force coming from his shoulders. Wu Lai knew this guy and couldn't figure out where he got such strength. However, the situation was a bit critical, and he was not allowed to think too much. The man opened his mouth, and a foul smell came out and sprayed in his face. Ugh. Damn it for me. Wu Lai resisted with all his strength, but the more he resisted, the more excited the man became. Saliva dripped down the man's mouth, and he roared and bit Wu Lai's neck. Damn it! I don't want to be gay. How dare you plant a strawberry on my neck? When I think about my grown-up man being planted with strawberries by another guy who is in heat, the feeling is simply holy shit. A steel-like strength that insisted on chastity to the end emerged from his body, and he pushed the man away in an instant, and immediately stood up and gasped. You kid, stop for me. Ah. Help. Wu Lai, save me. A few people who were struggling together behind him suddenly screamed. Before Wu Lai could react, he heard the sound of chewing. That sound is crunchy and JR-like. What? Wu Lai was petrified. When the other people around him heard the sound, they immediately thought of the bones he had eaten. It was the sound of teeth chewing cartilage. These people turned on their mobile phone lights to the strongest brightness and shined the light towards the place where the cry for help was coming. They saw the scariest school scene they had ever seen in the world. Several people were thrown to the ground, and their whole bodies were shaking unconsciously. This was the body's subconscious instinctive reaction to protect itself, but the owner of the body had just died. On the twitching corpse, several people were tearing at the flesh on the neck of the corpse with their mouths wide open. The carotid artery was torn open, and a stream of hot blood was flowing like champagne. They were spraying it out as if they were free of charge. The gurgling sound reached Wu Lai's ears. He was so excited that he lowered his head and used his mobile phone light to shine on the person he pushed to the ground. A hideous and twisted face appeared under the light. His eyes were bloodshot and turning red at a speed visible to the naked eye. He was breathing loudly, exhaling streams of hot breath in this cold season. Then, the man couldn't stand the stimulation of the mobile phone light, so he narrowed his eyes slightly, opened his mouth, and exposed his saliva mixed with blood. That scene was so disgusting. The big mouth opened wider and wider. It seemed like a long time, but in fact it was just a moment. This man pounced on Wu Lai again. I'll fuck you. The friend who helped him light the candle died in front of his eyes and was eaten by several things. Anger surged in his chest, and he aimed at the things in front of him and kicked him. Puff. With one kick, it felt like kicking on leather, and the man-eating thing was kicked far away. Ah. Killing people. Eating people. Help, help. No, don't eat me. I don't want to die. Please spare me. Screams for help continued to be heard around him, and Wu Lai finally realized that those man-eating things began to rush towards those who turned on the lights of their mobile phones. Everyone run. After shouting this, he subconsciously looked in the direction of Chili and saw several black shadows rushing towards Chili and the girls. This look made Wu Lai's eyes burst with rage. No! Wu Lai threw the phone over and hit one of the things on the head, but the woman's delicious bloody breath kept stimulating the instinctive desires of these things, like seeing fireflies in the dark night. In just an instant, several girls were surrounded by black shadows, and they were all thrown to the ground. Wu Lai roared and ran towards them as hard as he could. The girls' screams and cries stimulated his nerves. Caught off guard, in the darkness, his vision was greatly affected, and he was knocked down by a man-eating thing rushing towards him from the side. No, Chili. He was thrown to the ground, his hands stretched out in the direction of Chili and the others, and he yelled heartbreakingly. Flashbacks flashed through his mind as a freshman when he first arrived at the university. As a sophomore, Chili enthusiastically took him to report in the dormitory. The scene when he and Chili had dinner together, and the scene when they watched movies together. Chili's voice, face, and smile flashed through his mind like a slideshow. No! Chili's scream stopped suddenly, and the whole world seemed to be purified. Wu Lai could no longer hear other noises. Wu Lai, you have to live well. Wu Lai's eyes were suddenly able to clearly see the scene in front of her. Chili's body was being torn apart and devoured by cannibals, but her eyes kept looking towards Wu Lai. In the eyes that were so frightened that they collapsed, only Wu Lai could be seen. Boom strapje. Wu Lai's mind seemed to be in turmoil. His whole head felt like it was about to explode, and he passed out. After a long, long time, he opened his eyes, and what he saw was a ceiling covered with spider webs. He wanted to get up, but the burning pain in his body stimulated his body. He tried his best to turn his body sideways and put his head on the ground to support the weight of his body. He slowly turned his body over and knelt on the ground before slowly standing up. A wisp of light shone in from the crack in the ceiling. The musty smell of dead fish and rotten eggs constantly stimulated the nerves in his brain. He looked around and saw the surrounding scene clearly with the light above his head. It was just a dilapidated small wooden room. He slowly moved to the door step by step, unlocked the door, and walked out. There is also a corridor made of wooden boards outside the room. When stepping on the corridor, the wooden boards make a squeaking sound as if they will crack in the next second. Wu Lai doubts whether this corridor can support his weight. There was a dim candlelight on the wall, and from time to time a piece of dust fell from above, which happened to be sucked in by his nose, causing him to cough hard. Where is this? My head was dizzy, my whole body was aching, and I was inexplicably appearing in this useless place. I was really unhappy. Then, he remembered Chili being bitten to death by a cannibal. Boom. He was so angry that he punched the wall next to him, scattering a large amount of dust, choking him, and running away. Ahem, it's ruining the place. I slowly moved my body against the wall and saw an upward wooden staircase. I walked up and saw a slightly better large room, but it was also very dilapidated and there were piles of garbage everywhere. Looking around at everything in the room, there were still a lot of rubbish heaps like ruins. My stomach growled, and I realized that this room had no door. It's really strange. There is no door to this room, only a wooden staircase going down. The constant protest in his stomach reminded him that he should find something to eat, but the room was only so big at first glance, with only a few rubbish heap-like ruins. Could it be that there is still some food in the ruins? Thinking of this, he began to dig through the pile of rubble, pulling out the debris on it, including gravel and wooden boards, as if someone had piled it up deliberately. After a while, he actually pulled out a few things from inside. A log, a magnet, and a black fist-sized piece of toast? Let's not talk about the wooden gills and magnets, but when I weighed this piece, I felt that it was extremely hard and roasted. Is it edible? He was getting hungrier and hungrier, so he couldn't care less. He just raised his head, closed his eyes, and stuffed the roast meat into his mouth. A gurgling sound came from his mouth, and he was about to cry without tears. Who would make a gurgling sound when biting into it? Although it is unpalatable and tastes like chewing wax after swallowing it, I feel a warm current moisturizing my stomach, and I am not hungry instantly. A burst of heat suddenly surged up in his limbs, which turned into strength, and the pain and swelling all over his body seemed to dissipate a little. Wu Lai moved his body, and with the experience of roasting meat, he felt that the piles of ruins in front of him were rather strange. How could a normal roasting pig have such powerful attributes? Kindness? No, attributes. He opened his eyes and looked carefully at the half piece of roast pork in his hand, and actually got information from it. Spoiled roasted are. Restore 10% physical energy. Features. Although it temporarily relieves the body's hunger, it only takes a while for you to pull out a big bucket of fertilizer. Goyal. Ugh. My stomach is churning, damn. He came out of the corner, his legs were trembling, and he held onto the wall as he moved out. He looked at the half piece of barbecue left, with a cold sweat on his face. But being able to see the item information surprised Wu Lai, and he quickly looked at the wooden gab and the magnet. Wooden gill. Plus 10% hit rate for attacks behind the head, plus 80% stun effect on humanoid creatures. Description. It is a must-have item for every amazing hero in his early days. The first pot of gold in life starts from it. It is really a must-have artifact for robbing homes and traveling at home. Huh? This wooden gecko doesn't have the characteristics of roasting meat, but it has a description that sounds like a complaint. Read on. Magnet. Characteristics. Same sex attracts. Opposite sex repels. Description. Just an ordinary magnet. Well, this magnet has both characteristics and instructions. But how should I leave this crappy place? Walking down the stairs, I found that there was more than one door in the corridor, and there was another door that I had not passed through. I immediately walked over and opened it, but there was an upward slope. Walking up the slope, a cold wind blew in. It's windy. You can go out. Wu Lai spread his legs and ran up the slope and soon ran out. Although it was still late at night, he was still in the sea field outside the school auditorium. What's going on? There is a basement on the school's sea field. Why didn't I know? But he didn't allow him to think too much, because there was a scream from beside him. Could it be? It's still New Year's Eve. Several black shadows rushed towards him from where he was, and he shouted. After eating the roast meat before, his physical strength quickly recovered, and he punched in the direction of the black shadows. Puff. The feeling of being defeated once again passed through his fist, and then his arm stung, and he was actually scratched. He covered his arms and stepped back, suddenly thinking that if it were still New Year's Eve, how beautiful would she be? Thinking of this, he casually picked up the wooden stick and shined it on the head of the black shadow that rushed towards him. The attack on the back of the head was successful. The black shadow was knocked to the ground instantly. The other black shadows didn't react at all and continued to rush towards him. He swung the wooden log and hit it again, but this time he was not so lucky. The wooden log hit the black shadow between the eyebrows, and the black shadow took a few steps back and rushed over again. This time Wu Lai calmed down and took advantage of the moment when the third black shadow rushed towards him. He kicked the ground sideways with one foot, his body appeared on the side of the black shadow, and at the same time, he rounded up and stabbed out diagonally. Puff. The third black shadow also fell to the ground. At this time, the second black shadow that was knocked back also rushed forward, continued to swing, and knocked down. Ha. 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 Wu Lai stood there gasping for air, then ran towards the place where Chili was in his memory. Sure enough, the screams of girls came from not far away. Dimly, he seemed to see another self, but he didn't think much about it at this time. He wanted to save Chili. Several dark shadows appeared around the girls, and he arrived at the scene just in time. And the other self, when he arrived, slowly dissipated and disappeared as if blown away by the cold wind. While Chili was staring blankly at Wu Lai, who had turned into air, another Wu Lai suddenly appeared from another direction, startling her. Wu Lai. Chili was frightened. What happened to this transformation into a living person? But the matter was urgent, and she couldn't think too much. A black shadow rushed towards her, and the stench in her mouth filled her nose. What happened next was Wu Lai fighting the heroes with a wooden gig. In the end, the girls gathered together, attracting the attention of many black shadows. In the end, Wu Lai only saved Chili and another girl, and all the other girls died. He protected the two girls and gradually joined the other escaping survivors. Everyone formed a circle. with the boys protecting them on the outside and the girls inside using their mobile phone lights to shine forward, and began to consciously resist the attack of the black shadow. Finally, the sun came belatedly and emerged from the thick layers of dark clouds, dispelling the dark clouds and casting a heartwarming light. The survivors on Field C took advantage of the sunlight and saw the bloody and cruel slaughterhouse in front of them, which was as bloody and cruel as Shura Hell. There were human limbs and broken arms everywhere, and blood flowed across the scene, dyeing the entire sea scene red. The fearful faces of people were permanently fixed at the moment of death. After the sunlight appeared, the black shadows began to quickly retreat into the dark place. Even so, the survivors were able to judge the horrifying fact through the clothes they wore. These cannibals turned out to be former college classmates who just a few hours ago were counting down the days together and staying up late to welcome the new year. Vomit. The survivors vomited one after another. The little greenhouse flowers, who usually lived well at home and had never even killed a chicken, suffered an absolute visual impact on the first day of New Year's Eve, which they will never forget. On this day, at the beginning of the new year, the entire Earth, every inhabited corner, was suddenly attacked by terror and zombies in the early morning. Under the sun, the survivors began to call this day the end of the world. On this day, the entire world has undergone tremendous changes. After the end, will it be evolution or destruction? The mastermind behind the scenes covers the entire Earth. On the first day of the end of the calendar, fear comes. Newcomers, please collect. Thank you all. The protagonist's growth rate is not slow. Chapter 2, Goldfinger. The warm sunshine shone in the hearts of the survivors, leaving only sadness and pain in the entire sea scene. No pop-up novel website. Wu Lai picked up the two women he had rescued and asked them what their plans were next. Wu Lai, such a big thing happened in the early morning. I want to go home and see my parents. Hearing what Chili said, it was indeed necessary to find her family first at this time, so Wu Lai planned to leave the school with them. The number you dialed is temporarily unavailable. Please call again later. I called my parents several times in succession, but received no response. Soon, other students also found that their cell phones could not be reached. What's going on? Chili was scared, and a frightening thought appeared in her heart. Wu Lai knew what she was thinking and patted her shoulder. Don't scare yourself now. Since the phone call can't be reached, let's go home first. I just hope that my family can survive safely. Most of the students who come to school for New Year's Eve live in the city, so every one of them wants to go home. Just because there are still those man-eating monsters, the students plan to march together as a group. Wu Lai and the others were going to the south of the city, so they planned to go with the students in the south of the city. But just when they were about to leave, all the survivors suddenly felt a sharp pain in their heads. The end of the world is coming. A majestic voice appeared in everyone's mind, and they continued. Survivor module activated. Then, a piece of information appeared in people's minds, and they knew what happened in the early morning. Natural selection, survival of the fittest. Half of the world's more than 6 billion people were randomly selected and became infected. Most of the infected people have not survived the initial mutation of their bodies. The genes within an individual collapse, and they all turn into monsters like zombies. The infected people who successfully mutated evolved into another biological form, which simply cannot be called human beings. The other half of the population of more than 6 billion are survivors. Due to the sudden attack by mutants and monsters, the number of survivors has been greatly reduced. In order to fight against the attacks of mutants and monsters, every survivor will be given the opportunity to practice. And this coming apocalypse will gradually reset the ecological environment of the Earth, allowing the mutants and the strong survivors to kill each other to select stronger creatures. In short, just like raising voodoos in ancient witchcraft, the strongest life among the humans and new mutants who have started the path of cultivation is selected, and that is the Voodoo King. After finally digesting the information that appeared in his mind and contacting the basement he had entered before, Wu Lai immediately opened his personal panel as prompted by the information. Survivor Wu Lai. Level 0 and level 1. Title, newcomer. Combat strength, 3. Data calculated by combining body, mind, and soul. Talent, activate, 1/2. Battlefield, not open. The personal panel is very simple and even crude. When Wu Lai's thinking is guided to talent, a prompt appears. The talents of the survivors are different, but they are classified into 5 categories: technology, mysticism, magic, bloodline, and summoning. Technology is the current technological civilization. Naturally, as the strength of the survivors increases, some future technologies and interstellar civilizations will appear in the future, all kinds of things. The mysterious method category is subdivided into 4 major schools: Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and military. Each sect has different branches. For example, Taoism has branches of alchemy, Shi refining, and true martial arts, which will be discussed in detail later. Magic is reflected in magic and incantation. Magic is not the blinding method used by mortals, but the power of controlling natural elements. Incantation is the chanting of incantations to launch strange spell attacks. The bloodline category is mainly based on the inheritance of bloodline power. True dragon, phoenix, white tiger, Suzaku, fox demon, vampire, werewolf, and other bloodline powers all belong to this category. The summoning category is divided into 3 categories: heroic spirit summoning, elemental summoning, and undead summoning. There is nothing much to say about the latter 2. They are mainly heroic spirit summoning. If you want to summon the souls of ancient heroes or mythical figures, you need their most important relics during their lifetimes as the summoning medium. When Wu Lai thought of this, he simply ignored the summoners. He was just an ordinary person with no heirlooms at home. The summoning of heroic spirits was absolutely impossible to complete, and the summoning of elements and undead was also looked down upon. The blood type also refused. Although they were still human, the blood they shed was not. It always felt quite awkward. Magic. That's what Westerners like, but Easterners should choose mysticism or technology. After careful consideration, I decided to choose the technology category. He chose the technology category, but a problem occurred, prompting that the technology category has been activated. Please choose the second talent. What? I can actually choose 2 talents. Wu Lai raised an eyebrow and immediately asked the 2 girls around him, How many talents can you choose? Can't I only choose 1? 1. After getting the affirmative answer, Wu Lai roared in his heart, Wow, I have a golden finger for love. Can I choose 2 talents at once? Wrong. He suddenly thought that the disappearance of himself was due to another self. The 2 of them have met before, although the other has disappeared. Is it because of this that the 2 talents are superimposed? But regardless of anything else, start choosing talent trees. Tech talent has actually been fixed. Fortress talent? What the hell? Let's look at the next mysterious talent first. The 4 great masters of Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and soldiers directly skip the bald man and the nerd and finally choose the military master between Taoism and soldiers. Aha, I eagerly opened my personal panel again to see what specific talents I had obtained. Sure enough, the information was different from before. Survivor Wu Lai. Level 0 and level 1. Title, Scavenger. The speed of collecting and regenerating resources is doubled. Combat strength, 3. Data calculated by combining body, mind, and soul. Talents, Fortress, Va. Battlefield, not open. Well, not to mention, the fortress and the war talent seem to go well together. It seems that I have to take the route of a war madman, brother. Ha! When I think of my domineering power, followed by a bunch of younger brothers and sisters hitting wherever they point, I am so high-spirited that my mouth is watering when I think of this. After thinking about it for a while, I remembered to check the specific abilities of the talent. Fortress. Get a shelter module that can be upgraded, modified, and parasitized. War. Enhance the combat capabilities of your legions. The amount of information obtained is still very small, probably just because the natural ability has not been developed yet, so we can only wait to dig it out later. But where is the shelter module? Shouldn't it be? When I think of that ruin-like underground space, my head is filled with cold sweat. Can such a frustrating thing be called a shelter? However, when he ran to the top of the underground space and controlled it with his mind to turn the underground space into a module that only he could see, he realized that the reality was cruel. Well, it seems that this upgrade has indeed been upgraded, but the ability to parasitize is indeed good. After the shelter is put away, the ground under the feet is still solid land, and it does not become a big empty place just because the shelter is gone. There is also the tidal ability of the scavenger. The speed of collecting and regenerating resources is twice that of ordinary people. This is another very rare tidal ability. Withdrawing the personal panel in his mind, Wu Lai moved his eyes to the two women, especially wanting to know what their abilities were. Because of the early morning raid, he had saved both women, so he naturally told him. Chili chose the magic category, and her talent is elemental affinity, which allows her to control natural elements more effectively in combat. The other girl is named Meng Na. She chose the summoning category, and her talent is elemental summoning. The talents of these two girls are quite compatible. After the surviving college students learned about the situation, they continued their journey home. All the buddies who were with Wu Lai were dead, so he took the two women and joined the team in the south of the city to move together. Due to the New Year's Eve, there weren't many people in the school. At this moment, everyone was scouting each other's surroundings. They lived in peace until they walked out of the school gate, and they didn't find any of the hiding monsters. The leader of the Chengnian team was a top sports student with strong running ability and a pretty good physique compared to other boys. Although unfamiliar people did not tell each other about their talents and abilities, Wu Lai felt that this person should choose a military strategist in the mysterious magic category based on his own strengths. There are 9 people in the Chengnian team. The school has a fraternity, so everyone knows how many people come to participate in the New Year's Eve. There should be close to 20 people, but now it seems that there are a lot of people in the Chengnian team who died. Standing at the school gate, the leading sports student stared intently at the two beauties Qili and Mingna and volunteered. "Hi, my name is Wang Hao. From now on, everyone will hug each other. Why don't you say your name first? We are familiar with each other." After everyone said their names, Wang Hao pondered for a moment and then said, "It's actually a bit far from the school to the south area of the city. There are 2 routes in total. Why don't we all advance in 2 ways?" At this point, someone immediately retorted, "That's not possible. There are only 9 of us in total, which is smaller than the other 3 teams. Moreover, the school is quite far from the south of the city. How can we separate into 2 teams?" Wang Hao glanced at the man and said, "We still don't know what the situation is in the city and whether there will be other dangers along the way. If there are too many people in a team, it is easy to attract the attention of monsters. It is safest to operate in small groups. Even if danger occurs, the group will not be wiped out.